Hi guys and welcome. So my name is Padilla and today we're going to be working in Lightroom only. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how I got this super cool edit and how I basically edit in Lightroom using my presets or just using, Creative Eye. So this is the before and then the other one was the after. So let's go ahead and go into my presets. So this is Blue Retro. And in Blue Retro, it gives you a pretty moody dark blue, which I love. I love this for more dramatic shots. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm not pulling my highlights, and if I am, then I don't mind. But we're basically just going through and tweaking the highlights of the image and splint toning. So shadows down here. So you can literally stack any kind of variation on top of these, and you can open that and figure out what color you actually want for your highlights instead of, trying to guess. And that way you can see it in real time too, which is really nice. Details, I like to keep it pretty simple. And down here, if you feel like something's a little too much, then you can kind of like tweak it. But right now we're just trying to replicate basically the last image, which that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and work on another image. So we're going to use Dull but Blooming. So this one has more of a split tone. And you can, again, tweak the shadows and tweak the highlights. And these were actually shot in the Whitmore Mansion. So if you live in Ceres and you want to ever rent out the Whitmore Mansion, it is gorgeous. And this is for our mock wedding, which was really, really fun. I really liked it. So now we're going to just go deep and kind of edit with some dramatic flair. So you'll see that, different presets do obviously different things. And these presets are for sale. So I'm going to go ahead and do Earth Mama. And this is more of those like brown toned kind of presets where it makes everything kind of muted yet very dramatic, especially the reds. And I'm just like running through here and just doing stuff. But if you can see my curves are like crazy. And it's mostly midtones. And then I'm going to go ahead and just like tweak everything slightly. You don't want to go too dramatic unless that's what you're going for. But you can also use the sliders. Like there's almost no yellow in here, but I want to make sure that it's not too much on the yellow side. And then you can obviously tweak the curves. And then let's go ahead and see what else we can do. So forest is a cool one. It actually creates kind of a foresty color. And I created this one for, guess what, a forest. And then these are just my like batch presets. So it's not like my presets plus other presets. But these, like the ones that you're looking at that say moss, they're specifically from sessions. So let's say I got a really good shot and I really liked the way that I edited it. So what I'll do is I'll save it as a preset. And then that way I can tweak it from there and I can see, what I did and have my own personal collection of like previously created presets basically, which you can totally do. So now we're going to move on. Same thing with Trendy. So now I think what we're going to do is we can probably just play with this image. So we want to see, how much light is on this or how much light is on it. So I just kind of like scroll over and I check the R in the top underneath the histogram just to make sure I'm not like overly brightening anything. And then just adding some pop. Shadows, there's not much contrast here right now. So just kind of tweaking it. And then again, just making sure that I'm like not overly doing it. And then kind of tweaking slightly. And this is basically how I do my my presets. So just playing within RGB. So right now I'm in reds, going into greens. And you can see if you pull it up or down, depends, it'll like change the hue of that point. So if you're in the highlights, then I'll change highlights to pink or green, depending on the color that you're on. So then all I do is I go into the overall, I go ahead and kind of like tweak that. And then see the blue, it's telling me like this is absolute black. So do you really want that? So I'll just kind of tweak it. And then now the HSL is great because you get to basically target all the colors. So this is the hue sliders. Then I'll go into saturation and I'll kind of like play around there. And then I think this is like my favorite thing is the split toning, when I can manually tell what the shadow should be and what the highlights should be. And then I enable lens or enable profile corrections. And then sometimes I'll do the whole like post vignette thing. And then this is before the new update. So the haze, I believe it is now up in the basic panel. And then here is where most of the magic happens. So if you like those kind of brownie toned presets, this is where you would create it, because you're literally changing the profile of the colors. And again, it's just about tweaking it to taste. And your personal preference. So then I know I'm going to go down here and I'm going to pull those greens, like the darks of the greens, over. So then I have more leeway to like kind of play within those shadow, like in the RGB. So then finally I go into the overall just basics of the curves. This is not affecting the curves in the background. It's not affecting the colors. It's just for like another like pop basically. And then luminance, all it's doing is how bright do you want that color, which is kind of obvious when it's called luminance. But that's before and after, and we just created that right now. So now using the brush, I'm gonna go ahead and I think I'm gonna bring down the highlights, bring up the whites, and then make sure auto mask is on. That way it doesn't try to affect like the skin and stuff. And then brushes are amazing because you can literally just brush things on and create depth. So I'm gonna just go ahead and retouch her face really quick. So just making sure I'm hitting all those high points, and then you can see me kind of like brushing it on. My flow is pretty low, but my density is pretty high, so it means that I'm basically like painting it on full force. But you just kind of like go around and tell the image like, okay, targeting here so it can be a little brighter. And then you can also, like right now I just created another one, so all I did was hit new, and then you create like your contour brush. This is how I create that. And it's really up to you how you want to create it. Like if you feel like you need a little bit less shadow, a little bit more, and then I'm gonna go ahead and just contour her face, kind of like blending in the eyebrows, basically sculpting it out, kind of, oh yeah, basically contouring. So we're just sculpting out her face, kind of going on the eyebrow, because the eyebrow has a little bit of sparseness, but it's not bad. The makeup artist was amazing that day. And we're just going to contour around, darkening just basically the darks, and then lashes, brow, and then I'm doing this because I accidentally clicked it, but if you ever run into that, just show selected layer mask overlay, and basically that red is where you've dyed it, where you've painted it on. And then those points are just basically showing you where you've created depth. So this is what we've done. So we've created a lot of depth from a pretty flat image. So now I'm going to show you guys how to create a light flare. So we're going to use down here where it says color, we're going to create like a color effect basically. And the important thing to do is basically like the clarity. So clarity is going to be where it's at. And then you can angle it however you want. And I'm going to go ahead and pull it back a little bit and just make it a little bit more saturated. So clarity and dehaze. Yeah, you can use like the brightness or the exposure, but honestly, sometimes it does not look right. So just kind of making it look believable. Yeah, see what I mean? It kind of looked fake. So you kind of just play with it until you're happy with the light leak. And that's where we are now. So let's go ahead and close all of this. And then if you notice that the black and whites are kind of off, it's the highlights and it's also the curves. So if you wanted to create that into black and white, you can either do the vibrance down all the way, but usually that never works. And we can go ahead and darken that a little bit. Basically, when editing, you're just like tweaking 1,000 things and just pretending to know what the heck you're doing. But there's always a purpose to it. So this is what we've done. So if you look at that camera calibration, like how dramatic was that? It's pretty gosh darn dramatic. So we added a light flare. We did some popping on her shoulder and on her face, and then this is the before and the after. All right, guys. I love this image, and this is honestly probably one of the more elaborate edits that I do in Lightroom. You can definitely do this in Photoshop. It'll probably not take that long, but I love editing in Lightroom too because it just kind of calms you, especially when you're doing like 1,000 brushes. You're kind of just like playing around. But yeah, guys, that's everything we did. Like, look at all that stuff. And again, it didn't take that long. It took like 15 minutes to do a full edit, and I would deliver it just as is. So if you want to, you can copy and paste. So all I'm going to do is I'm not going to select the white balance or the exposure, and probably the brushes and gradual filters. Yeah, because you don't know where those are going to land. And you can create this as a preset and name it whatever you want. And now you have that preset forever. And let's see if it works. Yep, there you go. And now you just need to do the brushes. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys very soon.